friends, and welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited you're here today because I have some winter horror book recommendations for you. I will try to fit these recommendations in with the prompts for Christmas Evil, which is a readathon I'm co-hosting with some fabulous people. Kelly Hooked on Books actually came up with this readathon, and I will link her channel down below, along with the other co-host. It's Michelle from Michelle's Melancholia, Crystal from Fiber Artsy, and Kelsey from Slime and Slashers. So I'll leave all our channels linked in the description box down below, and the Discord and the Instagram for Christmas Evil. It's going to be a ton of fun. But yeah, let's get right into the recommendations. If you hear weird breathing, Beans is right here, dead asleep. He is snoring, and his snores sometimes sound like a TV on, like really far away for some reason. Don't ask me why. I don't know how cats work. But anyways, getting right into it. So these first two books will fit the prompt supernatural and winter setting. Those two prompts, starting with a classic Turn of the Screw by Henry James. This is a classic book. I absolutely love it. Actually, Alex did his thesis on Turn of the Screw for his master's degree, and so I'm a bit of a nerd about it. I absolutely love this book. It is about a governess that goes to Bly Manor to teach these kids who lost their other governess pretty recently, and their uncle is like never around. And yeah, you don't know really what's happening in this. You don't know if the governess is truly experiencing some supernatural stuff or the kid's just messing with her, and you never know. And I think that's why I like it so much. I love how ambiguous the ending is, and you can actually come up with, what you actually think happened in the ending. I have read this 3 times, and each time I go back and forth. I'm like, oh no, it really was, or I'm like, no, I don't think so. So definitely a classic, one of my all-time favorite stories, and highly suggest reading it if you haven't read it. It's very short. It's a little novella. This looks longer because there's other stories in this. If you guys are familiar with the show The Haunting of Bly Manor, the Mike Flanagan show, that show does some other stories, Henry James stories, intertwined with the Turn of the Screw. So yeah, highly suggest reading his short stories and then like watching the show. It is amazing. Be prepared to cry. Lots of sad monologues in that book, and in that show, and a very sad ending. But yeah, I highly suggest this book. It's not as sad as the show, I promise. And the next book I'm going to recommend is A Ghost Story by Peter Straub. This is a supernatural winter setting book, and it is amazing. It's so good. I actually recommended this in the readathon announcement video when I was just like, books. And yeah, this is a slow burn though, so be prepared to read a lot of pages about old men talking about their dreams, and that is not going to be everybody's cup of tea. I get that. It's very slow, but what the story ends up becoming is so good and scary and weird, and I absolutely love it. I also love the movie for this. Both of these books have excellent adaptations out there, so I highly suggest, if you're into that, like reading the book and then watching the adaptation. And some great imagery, lots of wintry goodness in this, and one of my favorite tropes ever is in this book, and I highly suggest it. And the next book, of course, I was going to recommend because hello, my sweatshirt, and that is The Shining by Stephen King. This is my all-time favorite book and movie. Controversial opinion there, but I absolutely loved the book when I read it the first time, which was about 8 years ago, so I will be rereading it in December, and I'm not going to say which prompt I'm going to fit this for because I feel like it would be a bit of a spoiler for the book itself, but I feel like everybody kind of knows what this is about, right? This is about a family that has some issues. The dad has some drinking issues, and something bad happens a couple months before they go spend 3 months in a hotel watching it, and Jack is the caretaker, but the hotel is haunted. And yeah, if you haven't read this, just do it. What are you waiting for? This is a perfect winter read, Christmas read, and it's so good. I feel like people, if you've only seen the movie, you don't get like the full story. There is quite a bit of romance in this book that I wasn't expecting, but I actually really liked it. And yeah, I highly suggest watching and reading The Shining. Why not? So the next book I'm going to recommend fits the prompt for translated work for the Christmas Evil Readathon, and that is Let the Right One In by John Evangelist Lindquist. Totally butchered that name. So sorry if you're Swedish. But this is a little vampire book. It's not little, but it's really, really cute. This is like a child vampire situation, and our protagonist is actually like bullied a lot, and his neighbor he kind of becomes friends with in a way, and that's pretty much all I'm going to say about this. Also, the adaptation for this, amazing. Such a great movie. There's a great sequence in this movie towards the end that has stand the test of time, I think, since it's been released, and it's amazing. I haven't read it in forever, but I remember really, really liking it, and I highly suggest checking it out, especially if you're into vampires. It would fit the prompt too for Krampus on the readathon, so you can knock out 2 prompts because this is kind of a chunker book. This book I'm going to recommend would fit 2 prompts set in winter and Black Christmas, like occult stuff happening, and that is White is for Witching by Helen Oyemi. This book takes place in the Dover, like, White Cliffs of England, which they get chalk from, I believe. This also has some trigger warnings for Pika, the main character in this, or Pika, she eats stuff that's not food. If yeah, that can be triggering for some people that have dealt with that. I know pregnant women, that happens to them a lot. But anyways, this book is like a ghost story. There's lots of creepy stuff happening in it, so it could fit under supernatural as well. But there's also like a fairy tale element in this, like an Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz stuff happening in this. I feel like I need to reread this book because honestly, the first time I read it, I was like, this is too smart for me. But I highly suggest, if you're looking for more of a more contemporary horror book that deals with some social issues of Dover, yeah, I highly suggest White is for Witching. The next book I'm going to recommend is Nosferatu by Joe Hill. I don't know why I said it like that. Anyways, this book technically takes place during summer, but they do go into a different world called Christmas Land where it is snowing. So it is more of a Christmas book, I think, personally. And you're dealing with a vampire. If you didn't tell by the title of this. I haven't read this in a long time as well. I remember really liking it, and absolutely love Vic. I love the show too if we're talking about adaptations. But anyways, this is about a girl, Vic, who has been able to kind of go into other worlds or like find stuff when she crosses a bridge, like on her bike, when she was a kid, and then as an adult she has a motorcycle. And I don't know what else to say about this because I feel like the best part of this book can be spoiled pretty easily, and I'm trying to think where it would fit. It would fit the Krampus prompt, it would fit set in winter, it would fit, oh geez, I feel like you could knock out a bunch of prompts with this book, because especially because it's chunky too. But yeah, highly suggest Nosferatu if you haven't read it yet. And of course I had to talk about The Shuddering by Anya Alburn. I love this book. This book is so much fun. It is a creature feature book, so it would fit Krampus set in a winter setting. Yeah, it's great. It could even, I think it could even do sleigh bells for this technically, because there is a lot of sleighing happening in it. This is about a group of friends that are super annoying, and they go on a skiing trip to only be like stalked and murdered by things. It's great. It's a good time. I know that people have like mixed reactions to this, especially because of the ending, but it does one of my favorite things in horror is at the end, and I don't want to spoil it, but I absolutely love it. And Anya Alburn is known for these types of endings, and I really like how dark she goes, and how I feel like how dedicated she is to these particular endings. And yeah, I highly suggest The Shuddering if you're just looking for like a really quick little read. I listened to this one a couple winters ago, and I think I listened to it in like 3 hours. Perfect for like commuting or, you know, just doing winter things. I don't know. So the last book I'm going to recommend is The Terror by Dan Simmons. This would fit a couple of prompts like winter and Krampus. It is a big book though, so if you get creative, I'm sure you could fit more prompts in this for this book. But this book is about a fictionalized version of Sir John Franklin's Lost Expedition with Yerbus and the Terror that actually happened in real life. They're up there, or actually I think they just found the Terror like a couple years ago, and what they discovered is not so good. These expeditions never made it back to England, and their food was like tainted, and they were stranded. And what happens when people are stranded? It's never good. But what Dan Simmons does here, he kind of puts in something else that is more horrifying. So not only are these men dealing with the weather, the environment, and starving to death, they're also dealing with an outside force that they don't understand. And yeah, it's a great book. It's a freezing cold book, and I highly suggest it. I love Dan Simmons. His books are really wild, and I like how he ties in history in his books with this fictionalized horror mixed in. It's so good, and I highly suggest it this winter. So there you have it. Those are some Christmas Evil recommendations. I know I didn't have any middle grade recommendations. Stay tuned for that for my TBR video that will be out soon, hopefully. And let me know if you guys are participating in Christmas Evil. Are you planning on reading any of these winter horror books that will leave you freezing cold with terror? And you guys have a great day. Bye!